I think we are ready to start. Hello, fellow citizens of Adams County. Hello. Welcome to the People's Town Hall. It matters not if you are a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, a libertarian, of no political persuasion at all. You're welcome here. I am Betty Baker, and I chair our hard-working Town Hall Committee. We gather in the name of the Fourth and Fifth Freedoms inscribed in the First Amendment of our nation's Bill of Rights. Freedom of peaceful assembly, and freedom to petition our government for a redress of our grievances, both fundamental rights guaranteed by our beloved U.S. Constitution. Our elected representatives, Congressman John Joyce, District PA 13, and Senators Dave McCormick and John Fetterman were contacted with a request to come to Gettysburg for our public town hall. Not once, but several times. We have not had any response. And since we had no response, we as constituents are hosting a Joyce and McCormick empty chair town hall. Yes. Amen. We would have put a sign in the table, the chair that you see there, for Senator Fetterman. But we received word last night that he is suffering extenuating circumstances, and we want to be sensitive to his situation. The absence of Congressman Joyce and Senator McCormick will not deter us from expressing our concerns and seeking bipartisan solutions united in a belief that we are the people. Actually, we retain the power by which our government leads us, and we stand on the side of what is right and just for all people. We want our representatives to field our grave concerns and questions, and to ensure our democracy is being supported and defended as those in power swore their oath of office to the U.S. Constitution to do. Our issues include Congress as a co-equal branch of government, due process, veterans' rights, DEI, voting rights, and most of all, the rule of law. Medicare and Medicaid, mass firing of federal workers, and withholding congressionally appropriated funds. Those are the issues that we want to talk about. We have invited other elected officials, District P4, PA4, Congresswoman Madeline Dean, and District PA 181, Representative Malcolm Kenyatta, Vice Chair of the DNC. We've invited them to attend and respond to our comments and questions so that we do not go unheard. Thank you for coming, and thank you for standing up for America. Let us say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's do this. Thank you, Betty. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me also welcome you to this People's Town Hall for the 13th Congressional District of Pennsylvania. My name is Dick Shope, and I will be your moderator for today's event. The lighting up here is a little more set for a romantic prom than political event. Bear with me if I'm focused on my notes a little more than usual, or if I break into a rendition of feelings. We are here in Gettysburg, a place whose history is central to the story of America's democracy. Our community is forever entwined with the sacrifice of thousands and thousands of soldiers, and with the powerful and unforgettable words of Abraham Lincoln, our 16th president. It is our contention that we continue to be caught up in that struggle to maintain and preserve our democracy, and that what we do today rests firmly in the cause of ensuring that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from this earth. A couple of housekeeping measures first. It's a little warm in here. They tell me the AC is up maximum. We'll all just be warm and sweaty together. At the request of security, there can be no individual videotaping or filming of this event. That was a condition of our contract with security, and we are required to abide by it. As you may know, this event is being live streamed, and a recording will be made. We will plan to send that recording to the elected representatives and senators. Again, though, please, no individual filming or videotaping. If security sees you, they will stop you. Please take a moment, if you haven't done so already, to silence your cell phones. And if you need to take a call, please step out into the hallway to take the call out there so that we don't disturb people. I want to clear the air about something. Did you see the news story here about a week and a half ago? The earnings report to investors of Tesla that Elon Musk made. And in the course of that, he again made the statement that the people who are objecting to what Doge and Musk are doing are being paid to protest. Now, I'd like to take a little survey here today. If you're being paid to be here today, and I'm not being partisan, left or right, writing the check, would you please raise your hand if you're being paid to be here today?
I wish.
Let's put that canard to rest. Let's acknowledge this fact. The reason we are all here today is because we take our role as citizens of this country seriously, and we wanted an opportunity to speak to our elected representatives. We're deeply concerned about what we see happening, and we have assembled to face the threats that we perceive to our community. Let's be honest, we may not all agree what those threats are, and we may disagree vehemently how we ought to resolve those threats. But I'm convinced that all of us are here because we love our country, and we want the best for it. As Dr. Baker said, if you are a Republican, you are welcome. If you are an independent, you are welcome. If you are a Democrat, you are welcome. If you are not registered to vote, what the hell is wrong with you? No, forgive me. You are welcome too. Everyone is welcome here with this one caveat. Let us agree that we will be direct but civil, candid but courteous, and that we will heed the adjuration of Isaiah 1:18, where the Lord calls to his people, "Come, let us reason together." Come, let us reason together. The people of the 13th Congressional District of Pennsylvania, the people, we the people, proud citizens of the United States of America. We want to thank our collaborative partners. You'll find them listed in the program. A special thanks to Beth Farnham, who will be joining me on stage shortly to be our timekeeper when we open the floor for comment. As Dr. Baker indicated, we have two honored guests today. Our keynote speaker, who will be joining us on stage very shortly, Pennsylvania State Representative Malcolm Kenyatta. He is the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee, and he will be delivering our keynote address. And appearing by Zoom, we have Congresswoman Madeleine Dean, who represents Pennsylvania's 4th Congressional District. Now, you might be out there sitting, saying, wait a minute, Kenyatta, Dean, they're Democrats. let me stress again, we wanted this to be a bipartisan event. We wanted Congressman Joyce to come and listen to our concerns. We made repeated efforts to invite him and to get an answer from his office. For whatever reason, he has not responded to our invitation. Now, if by chance, Congressman, if you're in the audience, come on down, we got a seat for you. We also made requests to Senator McCormick and Fetterman. Silence there as well. Again, we've had recent news stories that Senator Fetterman may be having some health issues, so we'll perhaps cut him some slack. But Senator McCormick, if you're here, we've got a chair for you too. Our agenda today is in 3 parts. First, we will hear from our special guests. Because of another appointment this evening, Congresswoman Dean can only be with us for a short time, and we will have her speak to us first. Then Representative Kenyatta will deliver our keynote address. Part 2 is story time. We have 4 people in the audience who will offer brief remarks to start us off. They have stories to tell. Stories about how people are being affected by what's going on in Washington. Stories that we think we all should hear. The most important thing is part 3, where we will open the mics for you so that you can express your concerns, ask questions, share your own stories. Our time is limited and we have a lot to do, so let's get started. Congresswoman Dean, can you hear us all right?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We invite you to offer remarks. I know you need to jet away here at some point. We'll understand when you need to slip away. If you think you have time for a few questions, you're welcome to let us know, and we'll have people offer those too. So please.
I am delighted to be with you, Richard. Thank you to you and Patricia, your wife, for being part of the organizing team. Thank you, Dr. Baker, for kicking this off. And I know Bonnie Brady has been so important to this organization. I'm delighted for the invitation. I thank you for asking me to come to let you know what I'm thinking, what I'm fighting for, what I'm working on in Congress. As you know, I represent Pennsylvania's 4th Congressional.
We've just lost your audio, Madeline. Hold on one moment. Can we get that back, Mark? Can you? We can, yes. Yep, we can hear you.
For some reason, I had some freezing. I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you now. Yep.
Okay. Somebody holler at me. If something happens, or stand up and wave your arms and say, "We're not hearing you." I'm in my 4th term. Just begun my 4th term in Congress. Very fortunate to serve Montgomery and Berks counties. I serve on the Appropriations Committee and on the Foreign Affairs Committee.
And you are frozen again.
When I think about it, you were freezing when I was listening to you. When my phone is better? The phone is working better? We try this, Richard.
All right. The joys of live theater.
All right. Here I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm frozen in time. Gotta move this nation forward. I'm delighted to be here with you. Gettysburg is really important to me. My husband and I have 3 grown sons, but I have to tell.
We are frozen again. Oh. Yeah. Well, it could be here. The internet connection is not strong here. Congresswoman, we are.
And I'll tell you what, every class I made sure I taught the Gettysburg Address. It is a masterpiece, as everybody in that room knows. And so I'm glad to be grounded in what Lincoln wrote about. 162 years ago, President Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg a nation weary from a brutal civil war. But he was clear-eyed. He knew.
We're frozen again. If
Are you hearing me?
we are now, you were frozen for a bit, but you're back.
Richard, go ahead.
That's all right. We can listen. Do you want to just try audio? Would that be preferable?
Now, is that all right? Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, let's see if that goes better. I think that'll be better for you. Yeah. All right, anyway. So, I read the Gettysburg Address often, and sadly now it means so much again, let's put it that way. I want to say that what we're living through is not normal. This is a test of our democracy. You know, after the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia in 1787, Mrs. Elizabeth Willing Howe, one of the few female political figures of the time, asked Benjamin Franklin as he came out the door, "Dr. Franklin, what have we got? A republic or a monarchy?" And you all know Franklin's reply, "A republic if you can keep it." Sadly, I know exactly what Franklin meant. We have the obligation to keep it. That's why I'm delighted for this town hall, the People's Town Hall. Because what we have observed, what we have lived through these last 105 days, it's not normal. We have been inundated, and I say this purposefully, not as a Democrat, not as a politician, as a citizen. This is not normal. We have been inundated with lawlessness, a disregard for the Constitution, incompetence, grave uncertainty, corruption, criminality. In just 11 weeks, President Trump sadly has lost this country $11 trillion in wealth. In his first 100 days, he has issued more than 200 executive orders, punishing tariffs on our closest allies and trading partners, tariffs on, tariffs off, gutting their agencies like USAID, which is costing lives around the globe, firing federal workers indiscriminately. This is not about efficiency. In fact, I am confident this will cost this country more. Targeting judges, journalists, lawyers, law firms, universities, researchers, attacking Social Security, an effort led by Elon Musk, who called Social Security the biggest Ponzi scheme of them all. Are you kidding me? Let's be clear, none of this is constitutional. Article 1 of the Constitution, let's remember, and I have to tell you, I carry my Constitution, I'm holding it out, you aren't seeing me. I carry my Constitution with me every day in my pocketbook. Article 1 of the Constitution says it is Congress who makes the laws. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a House of Representatives. I think you all agree with that Article 1. We also, Congress, has the power of the purse. No money shall be drawn from the Treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law. I have the honor of serving and responsibility of serving on the Appropriations Committee. That is our responsibility, and we will send the President bills, appropriations bills, for his signature. It doesn't work the other way around. President Trump, however, is trying to claim Article 1's power to legislate through executive order. That's why we are fighting in the courts. We have worked with Democracy Forward and other lawyers who are taking Mr. Trump and his administration and his lawless acts to court. And when Mr. Trump tries to withhold funds that Congress already appropriated, that the president has signed into law, that is blatantly unconstitutional. Let's be very clear about that. So we are in the courts. I want you to pay close attention. There are more than 150 lawsuits I've signed signed on to some amicus briefs to just be a part of telling the truth. And I count on the court, which is the Article 3 power, to do its job, to cut through the chaos and protect and lift up the rule of law and due process, as Dr. Baker pointed out. You know, President John Adams said, "We are a nation of laws, not of men." All of us, you and I. The four pathways that I see for standing up for the Constitution. We do it through the courts. We do it through Congress. I'm a Democrat in the minority, but I'm only 3 seats in the minority. And so we have power. And if I could entice Representative Boyce and 3 more Republican members of our delegation to come to our side and stand up for the rule of law, we would be in the majority. That's where we should be. Through Congress, we are doing shadow hearings, showing the terrible harm done for USAID furloughs, the terrible harm that will come as a result of the grotesque cuts to Medicaid, Social Security, Medicare. So Congress has a role to play, and members to come along with us. But I want to say my third C is citizens. You and me together. That's why I'm so proud of you for putting together this People's Town Hall. In these 105 days, I have held 3 town halls. 2 weeks into the administration, there was such bedlam. My phones were ringing off the hook in DC and in my district. And so I said, let's have a telephone town hall. Even if my answer to some questions is, I don't know, at least I can answer to my constituents what is going on and the fight that I am putting up. Citizens like you and like me, we have an obligation, and I see citizens so engaged. On my first town hall, telephone town hall, I had 9,500 people. It was both live and telephone. And in my third, just 2 weeks ago, we had more than 500 people filled to capacity in an auditorium, with citizens telling me they are so concerned. So please stay engaged, keep having town halls, keep inviting us. And I'm very mindful that you were thoughtful to mention Mr. Fetterman having some struggles, but I am calling upon my other colleagues to please stand up, have these town halls, answer the questions of our concerned constituents. And I want to say my fourth C. So it is the courts, it's Congress, it's citizens, but I want to lean on the fourth C, which I know you are doing, which is, as Martin Luther King said, calling out the appalling silence of good people. As I said, I was a professor of writing for 10 years, and I taught the Gettysburg Address for its brilliance, and I taught Letter from Birmingham's Jail for its brilliance. And Martin Luther King said in that, he worried about the evil words of those who spoke up, but he worried even more about the appalling silence of good people. We must call out the appalling silence as those who stand by or vote alongside this president's corrupt platform. Let's call it out and let's invite them back. It is never too late to do the right thing. Let's invite these representatives and senators back to do the right thing, to listen to their constituents. So I'll keep fighting in Congress. I'll keep calling out my colleagues and saying, please join us against the grotesquely unconstitutional actions, deporting citizens, deporting people with no process, let alone due process, the scandalous bigotry that is exhibited by this administration. We know what it is. It is blatant racism and bigotry. We must call it out. We are a country that is so far better than that. And I want to tell you, when I say it is up to citizens like you and me, you have had an impact. After the very first day of the Trump administration and the executive orders that were flying, my phones rang for the first 48 hours, like you can't believe it. We answered every call, every call. We had to sometimes call people back because we got overloaded with calls and messages.
But your voices made a difference. You saw that within 48 hours, the president had to backtrack on so many of the clauses in federal funding. Again, completely illegal. And so please continue to show up, to volunteer, to be courageous as you are, and to do it with the dignity and grace and courtesy that you are doing, but with the forthright honesty and truth. Because you know what's really going on here? This administration is not anchored or moored to the truth. That is what is going on. The administration actually is peddling lies and misinformation in dizzying forms with the hope that we will all be just so thrown off that we won't act. But I have a feeling I see a room full of citizens who will never let that happen to them. You know, one of the things I've been fighting most is about what the Trump administration would like to do to education. And it's so Orwellian to me. We all read 1984. This administration, whether it is the closing of the Federal Department of Education, trying to clamp down on universities, trying to shutter research, trying to disengage and not fund education in an equitable way in this country, we know what that is. They don't want an educated electorate. We're not going to let that happen in Pennsylvania. I am certain of it. So I think I'll close by just saying, you know, like in those very awful, tragic days of such grievous loss, a country at war with itself. But I have hope, because with his clarion call, he said that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that the government by the people, for the people, the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from this earth. I thank you for your commitment to making sure we live up to those words, that we protect this democracy and make it stronger, and we shed those who would try to defeat us for their own personal gain. Let's be clear, this is all about gain of one group. Thank you for inviting me to this People's Town Hall, and I can stay on a moment for a question or two if you like. Otherwise, you have got Malcolm Pinata coming in, and he's gonna do a phenomenal job. I'm a huge fan of Malcolm. I love working with him. So I throw it back to you with my sincere thanks. Invite me again. I'll try to come in person next time and not freeze up.
Do you feel you have a moment or two to take a couple questions, Congresswoman?
Yes.
All right. Okay. We have microphones to the left or the right. If you would like to come forward, please limit your question to 90 seconds or less, but we'll ask questions of the Congresswoman until she has to fly. Ma'am?
I try to make phone calls several times a week, and I'm just wondering, what do you listen to the most? Phone calls, emails? What's the best way to reach office holders?
All of the above. As I said, when this administration started, I forgot, I should take this on all video. Sorry.
That's right.
As I said, when this administration started, our phones rang off the hook. We don't have all the answers. This is a dizzying, corrupt pattern of behavior out of this administration. The people ask me that very same question. Does who care that we call? Does it make a difference? And so it does. What we did was we answered as many calls live as we could.
We've lost you again, Representative Dean.
Right, I can hear you now.
All right. We'll take a question at the right mic.
Yeah, oh, hi. Thank you for joining us today. I can say, gosh, I wish you were our congressperson in this district. But my question is, so with all of these executive orders, we've got, Trump has the House, Trump has the Senate, right? So we have executive order after executive order, which are not laws. And then we have the lawsuits, right? And the judiciary is holding at the moment. At some point, they don't have an army. What happens when he just simply says no?
I thank you for that question, and thank you for the kind words. I'm very worried about that. You saw both the vice president and the president flirt with the idea of just plain not paying attention to what the courts say. I hope it doesn't come to that, but if it comes to that, I count on the courts, including the highest court in the land, to hold this president and this administration to account. Hold them in contempt. Make some arrests. Hold them to the rule of law. No person is above the law. Sadly, we have a Supreme Court that seemed to give Donald Trump an opening, some sort of immunity while in office. That was a very dangerous precedent to set. But I count on these courts, and so far, many of the rulings are doing the right thing. Many of them Trump-appointed judges. But I count on them to hold them to account. Start arresting people who do not uphold the law. You've seen sadly what the Attorney General is doing. She is not operating as an independent attorney for this country, for the rule of law. She is acting as a personal attorney for the president, and that is so perverse and so harmful. So I talked to J.P. Graskin this week, and he said, we will catalog all of these high crimes and misdemeanors, but in the meantime, we have to count on the courts. And then, of course, elections matter. What happens this year in elections around retention of justices, election of judges, school boards, and other things, and then, of course, next year, I hope we will seriously reverse the Republican majority in Congress, because the Republican majority has been complicit.
Ma'am, I'll get right to you in a moment. I'm just going to catch a gentleman over here.
Thank you. Thank you, Congresswoman, for your remarks and for taking the time to be with us. I have two questions. One is, what is your sense of what it will take for the co-equal, so-called co-equal branches of government to stand up? Your colleagues in the House, what transgression is it going to take for them to say they've stepped over the line? I'm just amazed it's come this far.
I am too. I have to tell you, there were so many breaking points in his first administration that I thought, okay, that's beyond the pale. Inciting insurrection, I would have thought that would have been beyond the pale. And we tried to do our constitutional duty, and the House did impeach him for that. And many Republicans saw that very clearly as they were being run off the floor. But
We've lost you again, Representative Dean. One more quick question from this side, and then we'll go back over to the other side. Just very quickly.
I have a second, very simple question, and this is very concerning to me because I've lived overseas twice, once with the U.S. Air Force for 5.5 years, the second time with a large corporation. What is the voice of America today? What is our perception around the world? I read a lot of the international press, not our press. Our press. Today, we're being characterized as a cruel, hypocritical, greedy bully. We've lost our voice. Is there a concern about that?
I have a great concern. I'm going over the Foreign Affairs Committee. And from your first question, you know what I thought was going to be the breaking point? The shameful performance on February 28th in the Oval Office with the president and the vice president bullying a president 3 years after. I thought that's it. In that nearly sacred space where that man sitting there marking 3 years at war. I thought that would be the breaking point. I just came back from a trip overseas, and that is what we asked our friends. We were in London, then we were in Jordan, we were in Israel. I was with Hakeem Jeffries on a leader's trip, and we ended in Denmark. Our allies are baffled. They are absolutely baffled. In Denmark, the prime minister, she said, how do we see America? We are emotional about this. We have stood by America anytime she asks us for help. We fought and bled and died alongside you following 9/11, and we would do it again. But you don't treat us with that same respect. When J.D. Vance comes to Europe and says you're not the allies that you ought to be, it's insulting, it's not true, it's bullying. So what they have said is Europe is going to figure out how they will be able to go it alone because they think they can't count on us. I will tell you, they were so, Republicans and Democrats, they were so happy that we took the time to be there, to say that we are your allies, we are your friend, even in this time of chaos and corruption from this administration. I worry like you, thank you for your service, I worry like you about our relationships around the world. I pray that they will not be forever severed, and that they will recognize there are many more good people in this government who believe in being allies and friends, and do not follow the corruption and cruelty, your word, cruelty of this administration. Thank you for your service. And with that, I think I've got to go unless you have somebody else.
Can we take one more? I short-stopped the lady over here on the other side. If we could take one more question.
You bet.
Thank you for your comments on education. The Trump administration is in the process of dismantling the Department of Education. He seeks to end federal spending on programs such as Head Start, which delivers services to children and families, and fundings for public schools that are increasingly dealing with budget shortfalls. This is causing teachers to leave the profession in droves. In Pennsylvania, there's a significant demand for teachers, particularly in the STEM fields, and schools are struggling to fill positions, leading to a reliance on substitute teachers and potentially underqualified staff. The education required for teachers to be certified in states vary, but in most, including Pennsylvania, a bachelor's degree is required for a level 1 certification and a master's degree for level 2. For those interested in entering the profession, the cost is prohibitive. How can we support education in the Commonwealth? The answer is crucial for all. It includes increased school funding, providing mental health support for educators, and fostering a positive and supportive school environment. This requires federal support. What can you do to encourage those in Washington to support public school education?
Thank you for your question. I wonder if you're a teacher. I had the privilege of teaching for
30 years.
University. Did she say yes?
Many years.
Yes, thank you. My grandmother was a talented teacher in the Philadelphia school system for 30 university level. And before I came to Congress,
We've lost you again. Up.
failing ourselves and our future. So I fought for more money for education there. I was very proud after COVID that we were able to send billions of dollars to the state for federal funding, and I'm very glad that Governor Shapiro and the legislature have put more money into education these past 2 budget go-rounds, and I keep pressing them to do even more, to even it up, make sure that the kids that the kids in Lower Merion have, and you all know this. What I can do is I'm on the Appropriations Committee, and the subcommittee I'm on is HHS, Education, and Labor. And so literally, I will be demanding that we continue to fund the federal Department of Education to make equitable and excellent our public school education. I'll keep fighting, and I'll keep fighting for those teachers too.
Congresswoman, thank you so much for giving us this time. We will. Thank you so much. All right. Now, I am happy to invite to the stage someone who will come on down. Representative Malcolm Kenyatta, who is here to speak with us. Congresswoman Dean says to say hello. Would you be more comfortable with a handheld or a standing mic?
Whatever you think I should have. I'm just happy to be here in this room with all of you. So I hope that you asked all the hard questions of my good friend Madeline Dean. But my name is Representative Malcolm Kenyatta, and I am happy to be here among people who love this country and who understand that this democracy is actually worth fighting for, that it's worth fighting for. You know, I've learned over the years that too many people who are in a position of public trust, they don't want to tell you the truth. They don't want to tell you the truth. There's a lot of disincentives to being honest with folks. And so let me start with a hard truth. If you came here today believing that there's going to be any one leader who is going to save us from this moment, I'm here to tell you that's not true. But if you came here today believing that collectively there is nothing that can stop us from meeting this moment, then I'm here to tell you you're in the right place. You know, I've been all across this country, and it's interesting that I'm here today because last week I was in Palm Desert, in another Republican congressional district where the member was too afraid to come talk to their constituents. And I actually was there talking about Gettysburg. I think a lot about Gettysburg, legitimately do. A number of years ago, I ran for the U.S. Senate. And I gave a speech on the grounds at Gettysburg, and I want to say something today that I said then, those many years ago. I said that democracy requires something of us. It requires something of us. And each and every one of us know, particularly here in Adams County, that, oh boy, did it require something of those brave men on that field that day. That's sacred ground, where folks had to literally take up arms to protect this fragile experiment in self-governance. It required something of the suffragettes who organized at Seneca Falls and all across this nation because they understood that this country deserved to allow them to fully participate in every single aspect of what it meant to be American. Women across this country demanded it. We know that it required something of the folks who showed up at Stonewall with a belief that this country was big enough for people to be treated with dignity and respect, no matter where they're from or who they love or what color of their skin is, however they show up in this country, that this country was big enough for all of us. And I think certainly about 60 years ago, how much it required of the folks who showed up on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And many of us know about the great John Lewis and others who stood on the front of that line, but I always like to remind folks that there were over 600 people on that bridge. And they didn't know what we now know, that march and subsequent marches would lead to the passage of consequential legislation that would change the course of history. All they knew for sure, just like we know, that there were dogs at the end of that bridge. All they knew for sure is that there were state troopers armed to the gills at the end of that bridge saying, "You better not walk across." All they knew for certain is that there were going to be water hoses trained on them as they walked across that bridge. People of different faiths, people of different race, people from different regions who believed that America, that our job, the job of every generation, is to make sure that those incredible documents that talk about freedom and justice and fairness, that Constitution that was conceived and signed where I'm from in Philadelphia, it's the job of every generation to make sure that those words actually mean something in our lifetime. That's our responsibility. And it's our responsibility, certainly in this moment, to say no to a guy who thinks he's going to be a king. I will tell you this, I am not bowing to a king. I'm not kissing the ring of a king. I'm not bending the knee to some guy who would be a dictator. And if you watch the official White House pages, he wants to be Pope now, apparently. And he can't even do the damn job that he has right now. So here's what I know to be true about this moment. Yes, we are up against an authoritarian who believes that the rules of this country, the laws of this country, don't apply to him. We are up against people who are so incompetent and so disrespectful to the service of those in uniforms that they put confidential war plans just on signal. We are up against people who were so out of their depth that we have a Secretary of Education who doesn't know what the hell is going on. And we are up against people like Representative Joyce who have no spine and refuse to show up and do their damn job. And I will tell you this, I know that they're trying to rip away health care for millions of Pennsylvanians, but let's be very clear, members of Congress have great health care. They have wonderful health care for themselves and for their families. And so this guy has the capacity to go like get a spinal implant if he needs one, I'm sure. But I will tell you, as somebody who has run for office, it's hard work. And I don't know why the heck you would do all it takes to be a member of Congress, to then get there and just be a seat filler. To not fight for the people of Adams County. To not fight for the folks of Central Pennsylvania. To not stand up for our Constitution, for our values, for our laws. To not stand up for our military families. To not stand up for our farmers. To not stand up for our small business owners. What the hell are you there for? You know, they just get up, they stand up, they clap when he says clap. What the heck is this? But this is what I also know. That we have to be a party that welcomes everybody. And a party that is not driven in opposition to something, but a party that actually believes in something. And I know that this is like shocks folks when a black kid from North Philly goes everywhere and says this point, but I'm going to say it again. It shocks some of you. Now, most of you are sitting down, so nobody will pass out, which is good. But I am not a Democrat because I hate Republicans. I'm going to repeat that. I am not a Democrat because I hate Republicans. I am not even a Democrat because I don't like the guy in the White House, and I don't. I'm a Democrat because when I look at my life, I see the fingerprints of folks who came before me, who understood their responsibility to make those words in our foundational documents mean something. I grew up in a working poor family in the heart of North Philadelphia. If you know Temple University, you know exactly where I'm from. My dad was trained as a social worker right there at the university, and one day he was lucky enough that this cute little thing named Kelly Kenyatta, my mama, walked in. He was lucky. Now, I always like to say this because it is fundamentally true. I hit the jackpot in that I got the best parents in the world. They were fantastic. Second only to your parents, who I imagine were wonderful people. But my parents, as great as they were, they did not like each other in the end. And so what that meant for me is I moved a lot by the time I graduated high school, lived 5 or 6 different places. I got my first job at 12 years old washing dishes at a little restaurant. And what that job did was give my mama a little bit of wiggle room. And some of you know about needing wiggle room. Some of you know about what it means to be in that grocery store and get up to the counter and you have to start taking stuff out because the number's a little bit too high. Some of you know what it means about having to sit down your family and say, we cannot afford to stay where we are anymore, so pack what you can because we have to go. Some of you know about that. Some of you know what it means to not have access to the type of health care that every single person in this country deserves. You know what we mean. And so as difficult as things were, we were able to get some things out of that grocery cart because Democrats fought for SNAP benefits. So that's why I'm a Democrat. As much as we moved around, we always had somewhere to go because there were Democrats that fought for the belief in affordable housing. That's why I'm a Democrat. As difficult as it was sometimes for my parents with their jobs, if they found themselves in between jobs, they had something called unemployment because Democrats fought for it. And I had health care because of a little program called CHIP that you may have heard of because Democrats fought for it. And so I get a little incredulous when people say, well, what do Democrats believe? I'll tell you what we believe. As Democrats, we believe that in this country, the greatest nation to ever exist, that you ought to be able to work one good, family-sustaining job. Just one, not 2 and 3 and 4 and 6 jobs, but one good job. That job should afford you the ability to buy a home in a neighborhood that is safe. And that if you decide to have kids, that you get to watch them walk out that front door and go to a public school that is fully funded. And that public school ought to put them in a position to either start that small business or go and get their own family-sustaining job. And that when they're off and living their life, Democrats believe that you ought to retire with a level of dignity and decency, and you ought to be able to do it in the same home where you raised your kids in the first place. That's what we believe. And Democrats believe in this idea that the government should make sure that you have food on the table, but they don't get to dictate who sits at it or what you talk about when you get to the table. That's your business. And it's so interesting to me that we have Republicans who told me they care about freedom and all they want to do is be at your damn dinner table telling you what to talk about, what to discuss, who can be there, and what your family looks like. That's not the type of freedom that I believe in. I think if the government is not making your life better, they ought to leave you the hell alone. People say I'm libertarian in that way, but I guess they ought to leave you the hell alone. So here's what we have to do in this moment, and I look forward to answering every single question that we can get to. The first thing we have to do, and it's a reason I talked about Gettysburg, I talked about Selma, I talked about Seneca Falls. But there is a reason that would-be autocrats and dictators try to go after history first. It's a part of a strategy. It's part of a strategy. We should be very clear, right? As dangerous as Donald Trump is, as feckless as folks like Joyce are, these folks are like not new when you think about the long arc of history. They're not new. Even Make America Great Again is not a new slogan. That's a recycled slogan with some recycled ideas from a recycled old man who is out of his damn depths in the White House. But we should be very clear about this. That this country, when we faced big moments like this, when we were up against McCarthyism, when we were up against all of the different movements that I mentioned for suffrage, for civil rights, for equal justice, for workers' rights, there was never one person who came in and swooped in and fixed it. I think about the miners' strike in Scranton that many people say started the modern-day labor movement. You had a bunch of Polish folks and Irish folks and Italians who couldn't even speak the same language, but who understood that they were getting sick going in those coal mines. The coal barons were making off with a lot of money, but the people who were going down, sometimes getting trapped, and if they were lucky, they got to come out and deal with this thing that we now know is called black lung, but their families were barely making it. And so they decided that they had to figure out how to talk across language, talk across region, talk across a lot of different experiences that they had, and organize together to be treated with dignity, decency, and respect. That is how we've always done it. And so there is a tactic of historical revisionism that dictators and autocrats use. Because if you can control the narrative of the past, then you can try to dictate the future. Because if we make this moment about one person or one politician, we've lost the thread. We already have a politician who says, I alone can fix it. We already got that guy. I want more political leaders who say that we can fix it together. We can do it together. So I did not come here today, my friends, asking you to join the cult of personality of Malcolm Kenyatta. My husband would not join my cult, and he knows me really well. So if he wouldn't join, I'm not asking you to sign up. I'm asking you to believe in you. I'm asking you to believe in you and to believe in what we have always done as Americans. Make it about us, because this is about us. And we're going to fix this together. And let me be clear on this final thing, and I know that we're going to have some folks who are going to come up and tell some stories. These folks are not going to win. Hear me on this. They are not going to win. And I know in this moment it feels dark, it feels scary, it's easy to feel hopeless. But when the history of this moment is written, it's going to be written about us. America is too big, it is too great to be ruled and broken down by one guy with a bad spray tan and bad hair. I promise you. I promise you. So let's do what we've always done as Americans. Let's remember who the hell we are. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be worried, because things are happening that you should be scared and worried about. So that's a normal emotional response. So you can let fear visit you. You can let anger visit you. You just can't let it move in. It can stop for coffee or tea or whatever you got. But it can't move into your guest room, because hope lives in your guest room. The future lives in your guest room. And I am confident that if we keep doing what we're doing here today, showing up, meeting people who also understand the significance of this moment, there is nothing we can't accomplish. And so if you leave here today and you only leave here talking to the people that you already knew when you got here, you missed the point of this moment. The point of this moment is not to just come hear me. The point of this moment is to know each other. And to know that there's a neighbor who you may not have talked to who also is worried about what tariffs are going to mean for our small businesses and for our farmers who are losing access to markets all across this country. You get to come here today and recognize that there's somebody else who's also concerned about their Social Security check and what that's going to mean about their ability to take care of themselves, pay their mortgage, and live in the house that they're in right now. You're going to meet somebody here today who also depends on Medicare and Medicaid, like millions of Pennsylvanians, that is at great risk right now. And if you meet each other, then you recognize that you're not alone in this. Then you recognize that there are things that we can do together to meet this moment. And we are going to meet this moment. And we're going to meet it in large part because of the incredible organizers. Please give them a hand, the organizers of today. And because of each and every one of you who was brave enough, bold enough to show up in this moment and demand better and different from the people who are supposed to represent you. And if we are lucky, and you all continue to do this work after today, we can have a congressman whose name is not Representative Joyce. We can have members of Congress who actually give a damn about standing up for Adams County, who actually believe that their job is to represent you, not represent the president, no matter what party they're in, and have a congressman that's going to actually stand up for the Constitution and for the rule of law. So I'm going to stop there, and then I know we're going to hear from some folks.
Thank you, Representative Kenyatta. All right, thank you. All right, we're going to move into part two. We have some stories we'd like to share with you. How about if we start over here on the left with either Dave or Judy, whoever would like to come first.
Yes, please. Can I turn it this way, or how do you?
I don't think just whatever you want. Whatever works for you.
Talk this way. Good afternoon. My name is David Young. I proudly worked for 32 years at USDA, assisting U.S. farmers and ranchers to increase exports abroad. DOGE's impact on USDA has been disastrous. It recommended cuts to congressionally approved environmental grants from USDA to universities and farmers, which resulted in layoffs at universities and financial losses for farmers. It also recommended that USDA cut $1 billion in congressionally authorized food assistance, eliminating money for food banks and school lunches, which will increase hunger for many low-income people. And now USDA faces great uncertainty and what one employee calls horrible morale. DOGE recommended firing 6,000 new or probationary employees. Although several institutions overruled these firings, some employees did not return since they felt they were not wanted and had no career path despite holding advanced agricultural degrees. Some employees have stayed, suffering the toxic emotional uncertainty and disruption to themselves and their families of whether they will still have jobs. DOGE encouraged early retirement, which 700 USDA employees accepted, but now USDA wants them back because they hold critical biosecurity border positions. Oops.
Fishing.
DOGE also recommended that USDA eliminate or consolidate some service offices which are local, including in this area, which will reduce staff and expertise in each state, including in PA. The impact of DOGE's ill-conceived and cruel actions have hurt farmers, the poor, USDA employees and their families, and universities.
Thank you, David. Let's come over to the right, Mike. Sir?
I'm Mark Cochran. I'm a tractor operator and arborist for Gettysburg National Military Park and Eisenhower National Historic Site. I'm also president of AFGE Local 3145, which represents those employees, and I'm also president of AFGE Council 270, which represents NPS employees from upstate New York to southeastern Virginia. Gettysburg and Eisenhower comprise approximately 6,000 acres, 100 seasonal and full-time employees, and contributes more than $80 million to the local economy every year. The arbitrary and malicious attacks by DOGE on dedicated and hardworking middle-class Americans began almost immediately when our seasonal employees had their job offers rescinded on January 23rd. Many of these seasonals have worked at the park for over a decade and are 3/4 of the maintenance and interpretive staff. The next attacks occurred when all of our probationary employees were arbitrarily and illegally fired with the exact same form letter 30 minutes before the end of the day in the St. Valentine's Day massacre, by claiming that their job performance did not satisfy the necessary requirements for their positions. These fabricated claims were easily disproven by their excellent performance evaluations. Our staff and their families had to suddenly cope with an abrupt loss of income and an uncertain future. AFGE and other unions diligently fought these illegal actions and won their reinstatement a month later. However, all of our futures are still precarious as rifts are coming in imminently. And if it's one thing I've learned these past 3 months, which has been the longest 3 months of my life, is that when we the people stand together, and that when we the people fight together, we the people will win.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi. A friend here in Gettysburg still works with USAID, but has been given his termination date by DOGE. He has asked me to share USAID's story with you. When DOGE suddenly swept into USAID's headquarters, thousands of life-saving programs were canceled, as were the jobs of thousands of dedicated federal employees and contractors around the world. This caused extreme anxiety for American families who had to suddenly plan to come back to no employment and often no home. Hundreds of American families have their school children in schools overseas, and yet they're suddenly forced to pack up their homes, pay large sums for unplanned pet relocation, lose their vehicles if they're not able to sell them. DOGE deactivated the USAID website, containing thousands of reports, program evaluations, and studies about health, nutrition, and economic development, all paid for by our taxes, and all deleted by DOGE. USAID staff overseas were abruptly blocked from access to their email accounts, security, and cell phone service. And then with no planning, DOGE blocked USAID staff from supporting critical foreign aid programs and wasted millions in stored American-produced food and medicine. This waste still continues as staff are told to dispose of millions of dollars worth of electronic equipment. So DOGE's incompetent destruction of USAID is also an attack on a highly trained workforce serving their country.
Thank you, Judy.
Good afternoon. Honored to be here. Thank you. My name is Jamie Bautista. This week, 10 years ago, my son Sebastian lost his battle with an aggressive brain cancer with no known cure. Sebastian was the center of my world, a young boy with dark and deep brown eyes. He was very active. He played soccer, loved Legos, and he was always doing something. He greeted everyone he met as if he already knew them, with a big hug. This was weird. It scared me, but it was also who he was, and I love him for it. And then, at 7.5 years old, he was diagnosed with brain cancer. Sebastian died 9 months later. After his diagnosis, we accessed treatment through the National Institutes of Health, NIH, a lifeline for families searching for hope in the darkest moments. Research isn't just about science, it's about people. This past April, the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, announced devastating cuts to childhood cancer research and pediatric health funding. These cuts do not only impact scientists, they impact real families who rely on breakthroughs to extend time, improve quality in life, and fight for survival. The support system in place when Sebastian was ill has been seriously damaged. I'm speaking out here today because I cannot imagine anyone going through this battle without the support that NIH provided for us. Reducing research funding doesn't just slow science. In the greatest nation, it erases hope, abandons families, and dismisses the very urgency that defines childhood cancer. We must demand better. We must fight for the funding that gives children and families hope and a chance to live, to face fear, like you said. Look at it in the eye and say, good luck, because my life will not be lived with fear. Thank you.
Thank you. We now would like to hear from all of you, or as many of you as we can in the time that we have available. You're welcome to come either the mic at the left or the right. We'll bounce back and forth. If you'd like to ask Representative Kenyatta a question, he's ready to answer. If you would like to ask Congressman Joyce a question, maybe one day he'll watch the video. So if you have a comment, a question, or a concern, again, we ask in a civil society, please be civil. Listen to your friends and neighbors, give them an opportunity to speak. And now, and again, if you would, please keep your comments brief, 90 seconds if possible. Ma'am.
Yes. Hello, Representative Kenyatta. I'm Trish from 5051. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, "Fight for the things you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. What is the one thing you care about most, and how will you lead others from all parties to join you?"
Oh my gosh, incredible questions. You know, to me, I'll answer a way I've answered for a long time. People ask me, Malcolm, why'd you get involved in politics? And it's very simple. I was poor and I was pissed off about it, okay? But I will tell you, the poverty that we're seeing in this country, it is the moral and economic issue, I think, of our generation. And I think a part of the challenge we face, I mentioned about too many political leaders not telling you the truth. And here's a part of the truth, that you have a lot of like really smart consultants in DC and other places who say that when we talk about politics, talk about the economy, that we should talk about the middle class. We don't spend enough time in this country talking about poor folks and talking about the fact that right now in this country, listen to this statistic, it's gonna make you just infuriated. 10% of Americans control 66% of all the wealth. The bottom 50% of Americans from an income perspective control 3% of the wealth. And so when you think about, why are we talking about all these quote unquote, social issues and all this stuff that folks try to use to divide us up, particularly along racial lines, right? That's very easy. You look different than I look, and so let's try to fight about that. Very easy to do. It's more difficult, and it's better for them if we don't talk about that fact. That in a country this big, there is no country that has existed that has amassed the type of wealth that we have. But who gets to benefit from it? A few people, while the rest of us are forced to fight over the scraps. And I think enough of that. We shouldn't be fighting for the scraps. American workers are more productive than they have ever been. And the incredible folks that you heard from who are doing work, I always make this point, and then, sir, I'd love to answer your question. You talked about the incredible work that you're doing, and thank you for being an incredible labor leader and for standing up for working people and organized labor. God bless you. But you understand, you're in this room today, but you understand, these folks, they work in the government. They don't care if a Republican is there or a Democrat is there. They show up every single day because it's a part of their public service. Like our incredible friend here worked at USAID, USDA, excuse me. He didn't start working there because, a Democrat was in or a Republican was in. He was in trying to help farmers who want to get their products all across this world and build an opportunity for their families and for the next generation that's going to own that farm. Folks who I've gotten to know all across this Commonwealth and all across this country. And we have to get back to that. We have to get back to that work and back to, I think, as a party and as individuals, talking about the massive income inequality. That is why DOGE is cutting all these different things. They're not even being really shy about this. You take, for example, what they're doing with the air traffic controllers. They come in, fire all the air traffic controllers, and then you have Elon Musk say, well, you know what, I think that Starlink can do it instead. And so let's fire all these people who know what the hell they're doing. Planes weren't falling out of the sky a couple of months ago. Just today, when I was outside, there was a news report about a Black Hawk helicopter that almost ran into a flight over Reagan Airport. Again, this just happened. That was not happening just a few months ago. And so we're in a position where these people are not just trying to burn down government because they hate workers, and they do. They're trying to burn down government so that they can purchase the ashes and create a subscription service for every single thing that the government ought to do. That's what they want to do. And we're not going to let it happen.
Thank you. My name is Joseph McHugh. I'm from Cherrystown. I don't have a question, although thank you for presenting. I want to make a point here, is that the through line of everything that people have talked about here is two things, and that is people and money. And those are very important things to focus on. The effects that'll happen from everything that's going on affects you. It affects me. It affects everyone in this country. It's people. The reasons it's happening is money. There is a reason that DOGE under Elon Musk targeted the Consumer Protection Bureau. There is a reason they targeted USAID. There is a reason they targeted the departments they targeted, because those are departments that were investigating Elon Musk's companies. We have a president right now engaging in the most gross, blatant bribery and corruption scheme in American history. Selling a meme coin for access to the President of the United States, a coin, a collectible coin owned by him and his family, where both the sale and the increasing value of those sales benefits him directly, on the website where they're tracking it with a leaderboard of who has bought the most, to see who can get a dinner with the president or a personalized tour of the White House. It has the tagline, "Own a piece of Trump." They have put the White House on sale, and we need to stand up for that, or our country is gone.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you.
What he said, honestly.
This is for the representatives and senators who didn't show up. Okay. So, $1.60 per person per year. That's how much PBS costs. $1.60 per person per year. It's cheaper than a cup of coffee. There are over 160 locally operated and controlled public TV stations in this country, hundreds of communities where there is no other local source for news or emergency warnings except PBS. PBS Warn is a program that is critical. Over 50% of our kids do not attend formal preschools. PBS programs prepare them for school. PBS Learning Media program is free, and it is used by 1.5 million educators and by students who are homeschooled. In the poorer states, PBS is used to provide educational programs that they otherwise could not afford. During the pandemic, virtually every student in this country relied on a PBS program for their education. PBS is not just masterpiece theater. So my question to these people who are not here is what are you going to do to represent me and 82% of all other Americans, whether you're Republican or Democrat? What are you going to do to represent me and fund PBS? How about a few less golf games? And how about no Mussolini or Hitler military parade?
Thank you. Thank you. If you want to chime in or anything.
First of all, I just want to thank you for what you just said about PBS. And Ken Burns just did an interview yesterday, I guess it was on Anderson Cooper, where he talked about the importance of not just public broadcasting, but the importance of us doing things together as Americans. It is important that we do things together, that we continue to build roads and bridges and schoolhouses. No one person can do that by themselves. We do it collectively. And what this president is trying to do, and what these gentlemen refuse to stop, is the wholesale desolation of the things that bind us as Americans. PBS and our public broadcasting more broadly, the good news is that it is supported by listeners like you, as you hear him say. And so over the years, the funding streams, they have worked really hard to diversify them and have really benefited from the donations that have come in. And so I know you're getting requests to send $5 to this and $2 to that, but I think if you think about sending just a couple of, even if it's 50 cents or $1 to your public broadcasting, it's a good investment. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Bianca, and I'm a pissed off wife of a federal employee who works for the National Park Service. My husband has worked for 35 years for the National Park Service, and the way he's been treated is disgraceful, and I'm so angry. They are going to have a cut in Wausau, which is in Washington, as well as Fort Collins, that's going to be considered a blanket cut. No 60-day warning, going to completely wipe out a whole group of federal employees. We've watched our FERS drop. And I've watched CNN with Hakeem Jeffries on there listening to the federal employees, and the one thing that I did not hear him say was what they're claiming about federal employees is wrong. It's a lie. And I don't see anyone out there at all telling us the actual numbers. People are coming from every federal branch back to work. The amount of money that it has cost to bring these people back doesn't even have a little bit of what everybody makes. It's ridiculous, it is a shame, and it's a sham. But no one's going out there and telling them this is a lie. These federal workers work their asses off. They're dedicated. They work their asses off to have their federal employee retirement funds, which he's trying to cut. We don't even know what we're going to do. My husband is ready to sign off his retirement. He didn't want to retire, but he's being forced to. And all of our friends don't know what to do, and they're not in the same position as my husband to take that retirement. They have families that are in college, children. I don't even know what to say, but what I want to see is my congressmen, my senators coming out and saying, this is a lie. These are the numbers.
Well, I just want to say the smartest thing, and thank you. Yes, please. I want to say, Bianca, the smartest thing your husband ever did was marry you. So you got somebody who has his back.
Part Hispanic.
That's right. Somebody who had his back. But I want to thank you for that. And you know, I held a policy hearing with local business president and many others talking about exactly what you're talking about. We had it in Harrisburg and then had a press conference after. These cuts are not only bad for individual families, but the work that he did matters. The work that he's doing matters. And the big lie of all of this, which is so frustrating, is we have not saved any money. You know, the whole purpose of this, I heard, was we were supposed to be saving money. We have actually spent 150 so far billion more dollars than we spent this time last year. And what the hell have we gotten for it? We've gotten families like yours, countless others, who are in an unconscionable position. And so I am so sorry that this is happening. I am so sorry that somebody like your husband, who dedicated his life to public service, is now being treated like garbage by the same employer that he spent so much time investing his talents in. That is not how a career that is as honorable as the one that I know he's had and so many of our federal workers has had. That's not the way that their careers should be ending. And again, we don't save any money as Americans for it, and we lose access to talent that we're never going to be able to replace. Because even when we get to a position where this guy is behind us, when we do the work that we need to do to flip the House of Representatives next year, which we will do, when we do the work that we need to do to make Dave McCormick a one-term senator, which we will do, when we do that work, there's a lot of rebuilding that we're going to have to do. And we're going to be in a position where some of these roles, we're never going to be able to get the type of talent and the type of institutional knowledge that we had in those positions. And that's going to be the great shame of this country. We are putting ourselves in a position where we're not going to be the leaders of the free world anymore the way that we should be. They're going to be folks who are eating our lunch because we have decided to wholesale kick out the people who are doing the research to care for folks like Sebastian and so many others, the people who are doing the incredible work that USAID was doing around the world. As somebody who has traveled this world, a part of America's strength is not just that we have the biggest guns and the fastest planes and the most powerful ships. That's a part of it, certainly. But the other part of it is that America spent money investing in eradicating diseases. And so when people see the American flag in their village, they understand that that country and what it means changed things for them. America was the place that stood up against fascists, and now we have a damn fascist in the White House. And so I'm so angry as well, Bianca, not only for your husband, but for what this means for all of us. But I do think this, that what we have an opportunity to do in this moment is to educate people about what government actually does. Because I know that for a lot of folks, when we heard these acronyms before, we're like, I don't know what the acronym is. I just know that when I sit my kid down for dinner, I just know the food is not poisoned because there was a recall, right? Somebody did the recall, though, because somebody tested the food. And we got rid of so many of the food inspectors, a lot of whom, by the way, worked in Pennsylvania. And so this is to great shame that we do not have members of Congress who are willing to stand up for your family. But I will tell you, I'm going to keep doing it, and I know that we're collectively going to keep doing it together. So thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the witching hour is upon us. We had promised that we would vacate this space in a prompt way under the contract that we have with the Barn Resort, and it really is time. I'd like to, and I apologize to those of you who've been waiting patiently in line. I'd like to take one more question, and then we really will need to wrap up so that we don't fall out of good graces with the Barn Resort.
Okay, I'm Christina Bevilacqua. I grew up in Gettysburg. I don't currently live here, but I live in Mercersburg, Pennsylvania. I've spent the last quite a few weeks alone in the town square, the lone voice of dissent, and it's been very difficult but very rewarding. My question is, how would you recommend as an individual reaching more people going forward? How would you encourage people to join you and follow your lead? And how would you start conversations and get people to join in with you? I'm not going to be alone next time. I have Trish joining me. Thank you. We just met today. And my conversations usually start out with personal attacks, but I have had great conversations afterwards about like Social Security and whatnot. But how do you get people to join your lead, follow your lead?
I know that you want a different answer than the one I'm about to give you, but you just did it. You just did it right now. You know, there's the quote that I'm gonna sort of bloody here, but never doubt the power of a small group of committed individuals, because that's the only thing that has ever changed this country and this nation. You know, I spend a lot of time as I go around doing these town halls talking about history, because it is so important in terms of guiding what we do next. I think the great disservice of all of us who went to school and we sat and we learned about different movements, even the revolutionary, the American Revolution, we think about all these different inflection points. And it's easier in a module to talk about a couple of names. And so we internalize those names and we get under this false illusion that the civil rights movement was won because of Dr. King and Malcolm X and some others, and Rosa Parks. We should be very clear, there were a lot of people who refused to give up their seat, not just Rosa Parks, she's just the name we remember. There were a lot of different marches that started from one person who was committed enough to show up every single day. And so what I want to do to you is say, thank you for what you're doing. Keep showing up. And if all of us keep showing up, I promise you, we will do what we have always done as Americans and make sure this experiment in self-governance doesn't die on our watch. I'm committed to spending a little bit more time here to try to answer any questions that I can outside, while also being respectful to the incredible organizers. But I want to thank you again for being here, and I want to thank you for your questions, for your patriotism. God bless you. God bless you. Thank you.
Again, my apologies that we can't go on, because I know there are many things that we want to say. Understand, we can extend this. We can extend this. You can go home, you can email, you can phone your congressman, Congressman Joyce, or the senators, and I know you'll probably need to leave a message, but leave a message and tell them how disappointed you are that they weren't here today. And they need to come here and present so that we can express our views. Now, I have to tell you, we're very thankful to the Bar and Resort for letting us be here, but nobody works for free. We have costs that we have incurred to rent this space, for the technology that's been available to us, for the security that's been provided. If you can see your way to helping us with a cash donation on your way out, there will be volunteers at the doors with donation buckets, and we'd appreciate anything you can do as you leave the building. Thank you again. Be safe. Fight the good fight.
It's my pleasure. How these cutbacks have affected major drivers.
Thank you. Thank you.
They did do it?
They did. Thanks for all you do. Yeah. I don't know if it was just online or publishing a paper.
You may take photos with Representative Kenyatta.
Our organization has 2 op-ed slots in